And we have to make a mental shift and a intentional shift in our mindset to really create a new tone and a new culture in our home. And that's our safe space. And we want to make it that safe space for you as the parent and for your children. So I want to talk about, Atiyya, 3 elements of positive parenting that you can take out of today's session, that you can start and implement from this moment. So what positive parenting does is it actually enhances your presence, your awareness to what's happening today. So positive parenting really is about empowering the parent to know that it's not perfect parenting. You don't have to be perfect in any way. We as adults are dealing with so much stress, and we have to show our children that in navigating stressful situations, we know and we are aware of the stresses around us. And it's about emotional awareness, really talking about and identifying the stress and the feelings that you are going through at that moment. And when children see parents talking about the reality and then finding a solution, so sitting down and saying, my finances are actually not in a good space right now, and getting your children in on a family meeting after you've discussed it with your spouse and after you've really thought about it, is to be aware of the situation and then let the children know. And when children know that they're part of the family unit and that they're also part of the family economy, and I want to talk about that as well, is that every person in the home has a unique, special place and they contribute to the home, whether it being cleaning up their toys, getting involved in helping mom with the dishes, helping dad in the garden, giving children responsibility in the home teaches them a sense of worth. It says, I value you, you are included, and I also want to tell you about our family's values, our vision, and even though it's a stressful time right now, this is where we are heading. So it's about being aware. So awareness is the number 1 tool, is saying, whatever you're feeling, identify it. Whatever situation or stress that you are feeling, identify it and say it's a financial pressure, it's a educational pressure, I'm feeling pressure with homeschooling. Identify it, and then we're going to try and break it down, and I'm going to help you break it down in small bite-sized pieces to be able to manage on a daily basis. Because I think when we think of everything, we are looking at it from such a huge task that we end up not procrastinating, and we feel defeated in many ways. And that is a ripple effect in our mood, in our irritability, and in the time that we spend with our children.
Oh, yes, I would definitely and most certainly agree with you there. And emotional intelligence proponents now are regularly using this tagline, name it to tame it. And what you're saying is basically naming it to tame it. Because if you start acknowledging that this is what I'm feeling, it kind of gives you a release into letting it up and out. And then you can focus out of the realm in your mind of, I'm going through a lot too. I know what I'm going through right now. I know what I'm feeling. Now, what can I do about it? And here's a really, really important point, ladies and gentlemen. It may seem so insignificant, but if I could ask you, knowing full well that this is a very safe space, I'd like you to just put it in there into the chat that, can you name it to tame it right now? What can you name exactly one feeling you're feeling right now that is causing you the anxiety or the fear or the grip or the sleepless nights or the difficulty falling off to sleep, or what's the thing that's really that you can pinpoint? I'm naming it to tame it. This is what I want to tame. This is what's getting me out of control, because stress really is, if you simply put it, feeling out of control. And let's see how that feels. Priyanka, share with us, you being the speaker, what have you felt in this last week that you felt you needed to name to tame?
Just in the past, I would say 48 hours, I've been feeling a sense of frustration, also lack of control. I feel sometimes that my day is so busy because I'm trying to get client calls in, coaching calls, and I'm taking care of my toddler. I'm the primary caregiver because my husband is out the whole day. And the pandemic has really hit us from me being my daughter's caregiver, and I clean the home, and I'm building a business. So I've been feeling torn in every direction. And when I feel that way, I know that, okay, I need some time for myself. And I think we don't allow ourselves just 5 minutes to breathe, to take a walk, 5 minutes to say, I need to just process this feeling. Because what happens is if we don't identify that frustration, we just end up snapping at our children, snapping at our spouses, going to bed upset, and then it's a ripple effect onto the next day. Then the next day starts out to be completely heavy, and it's just a mass of all this negative emotion that hasn't been called out, named it. It hasn't been tamed because you haven't named it. I love that hashtag. You haven't identified it, so it actually mutates into a bigger emotion. So that frustration can actually turn out into anger. That anger, if not identified, turns into wrath. That wrath can turn out into, complete devastation, where you are lashing out all the time.
Oh
So
my.
it's like, yes. So I really, in the last 48 hours, I yesterday morning decided I'm going to change up my morning routine a bit. Instead of homeschooling my child and doing the routine, I took a step back. We started the day in the garden to get in some nature, and there was no structure, because I found that with every day being as structured and as routine, children also cannot manage in that space, because their attention spans are also very different to ours. And the main thing about positive parenting is allowing your child to resist certain things, to say, no, I don't want to do this. And we, as the parent, empower the child and yourself to do something else.
That's
And
amazing.
it's giving,
I love what
yes.
Aisha Karolia is sharing here. She says a fear of anticipation of what's to come, fear of what the future holds for us. So yes, she's naming it to tame it. She's having a fear. She's identified that anticipation, this fear of tomorrow. And I'm going to use another tagline here. Bibi Aisha, I'm really hearing what you said, because 2 weeks ago, I was going through that space of that fear of anticipation. And I'm hearing exactly what Priyanka is saying as well, because one day of anticipation became a second day, it became a week. And by the end of the week, it it was a snowball effect. And even though I'm a counselor, a clinical counselor, I'm an NLP Gestalt coach, I'm an education consultant, and so many titles, but all those titles mean nothing, because for me, the main title is that I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister. These are the most valuable titles we can ever hold. I'm a servant of God. These are your main titles, because when all the other titles fall apart, we would hope that these never do. So
I love that. Yes.
yeah, so
I love that you said,
borrowing sorrow from tomorrow, another tagline, which it's not mine, unfortunately. I give credit to one of my friends, Zinat, who says, never borrow sorrow from tomorrow. And I had to remind myself of that. I am actually borrowing sorrow from tomorrow, because my son's in matric this year in South Africa. And it's like, what are the matriculants facing? How are they going to cope? Trials, examinations start in 2 days' time. What is the future going to be for these kids? What will be the final examinations? Which universities are going to accept them? Every plan that we had for his university, either in Malaysia or in the UAE or in Georgia, are all thrown out of the window with lockdown. He can't get into those countries now. So it's a lot of anxiety, and my sharing of my personal example is one tiny one amongst billions of people with similar anxieties. And can we imagine the negative energy that is creating collectively in the world if each of us are living in this fear of tomorrow, borrowing the sorrow from tomorrow?
absolutely, Atiyah. And I really, while you were talking, I thought of, you were saying that all those titles in the grander scheme of things don't mean much. Yet we often take out our frustration and that negative emotion on those closest to us. So instead of us processing emotion, naming it and calling it and identifying a way to take care of yourself, because that's another element of self-care, we end up lashing out and taking it out on the people closest to us. So because we are the adults in the room, we need to teach our children that even in a stressful situation, we always have control and we always have a choice, because that free will always makes you know that you can choose a better alternative, and it's okay to feel the feelings that you're going through. There's no shame in feeling anger, there's no shame in feeling frustrated, but you need to be able to say, I'm feeling it, and then saying, well, I'm not going to feel it anymore, as you said, because I'm not stealing from tomorrow. I want to make the most of tomorrow. And in doing that, I found it very, very useful for me. Before I became a coach, I was working in a very, very fast-paced corporate environment. I lived to the beck and call of others all the time. And when you feel out of control, when you feel that you don't have the control of your job or your finances or society or getting sick, it can honestly be a domino effect where you feel that you do not have any other choice. And I want everyone to know on this call is that you always have a choice, and that whatever you're going through is something you can work through as long as you identify it and know that there's always help. And you often have the answers deep within you if you allow yourself to feel that feeling. And that is where self-care comes in. So it's about awareness, identifying that feeling, knowing what you're going through, and then allowing yourself to feel it, giving yourself 5 to 10 minutes, if that's all it is, to process it and say, you know what, I allow myself time to myself to walk and to process and to think and to let it go. And when you allow yourself to let it go, it's a release.
Definitely. Feeling it, letting it up and letting it go is one of the most therapeutic things a person can go through, especially when you're caught in a cycle of, I don't know what to do. Uh, I'm not good enough as a parent. I might fail my family. I'm not running my finances properly. All the negative talk that comes about, oh, I don't know enough, which leads to so many other things. These negative thoughts are part of the mind's job of fear, doubt, and judgment. And one of the best things we can do as parents is to remember that we are not just parents. We're not just human doings that, we got married, we had babies, they came along, and we just living the motion, doing what we have to do. Very, very seldomly does a parent, actually stand back and say, how am I being in this situation? We very often give ourselves the narrative that, well, I got to do this and I got to do that and I've got to do this and it's just about doing and pulling yourself along while you're doing. We kind of drag ourselves along while we're doing it. And I like how you picked on that, or you stressed that point about the self-care. And I'm linking that into what I'm saying now, is that very often we do not fill the cup of who we are, yet we want to give everybody else. And it's an age-old cliche. We talk about the airplane when they say, put your mask on first. You need to have the oxygen in order for you to save somebody else. And as parents, we kind of know that. But knowledge is not what you know, it's what you show. Are you actually taking care of yourself enough in such a way, centering yourself, finding your calm within the storm so that you can bring others into the calm?
Yes, absolutely. And I love what you said now about the calm, because when we talk about kids, and I'm talking about my main focus, because I have a 2-year-old, I really focused in on the first 12 years. So I've really delved in and I furthered my studies into understanding the development stages. And Dr. Luvi will know this as an educational psychologist as well, just how children learn and children start to absorb information. It happens through our conditioning. And we as parents and our children's main influence that they grow up with, they learn how we actually live life. So they are watching everything we do. They are emulating our behavior. They are modeling how we respond to stress. They are modeling how we respond to ourselves, Are we hard on ourselves? Do we smile? Do we laugh? Do we allow ourselves to enjoy any part in the day? Do we give ourselves a moment to enjoy? And and this is just a checklist now, is to say, I want more peace, I want more joy, I want more laugh, I want more time with my child that's not only focused on what's happening, how much money we have, what we're eating. We can create a safe, happy space at this very moment by choosing to do so and knowing that we can have it. Because I think just knowing that you can have it and that it's possible empowers a person. So the next thing is having presence. So we spoke about awareness, and we spoke about the feelings and identifying it, giving yourself time to process and allowing yourself self-care, because it all starts with you. Your children feed off your energy every single day. And often when we see them either throwing a tantrum or the behavior is just all over the place, we often punish them. We punish them, or we say, go to your room, or you're not listening, or you're not being a good girl, you're not being a good boy. And what happens is that they process that. They process that as, I'm a bad person. My mom doesn't think I'm a good person. That's all they take as it, reprimanding as. So we want to try with positive parenting is to discipline through positive reinforcement. So it's still saying, yes, my child needs guidance. I am here as their main caregiver and guider and main person to show them how life is meant to be, how to work hard, how to be kind, how to appreciate people, how to be a change maker, how to be resilient. And we are doing this through our lives as the main caregiver, as the model of what they should be. And being a model person does not mean perfection. It's showing our children that we make mistakes, that we feel sad, that we feel stressed. But more than anything, it's showing them that you have the power to overcome it. And when they can see that mommy also makes mistakes sometimes and she says sorry about it, it's okay, I'm not a bad person. Mommy still loves me even though she shouted at me. Daddy still loves me even though I had a time out, but I understand. So the basis is that point of letting your child understand is that emotions are a good thing. Whether they are good or bad emotions, we were given them for a reason. But not knowing how to control it is where it gets out of line, and I think people struggle. So your child is continually looking for you to guide them, to say it's okay that you messed up today, it's okay that you may have raised your voice, but we don't like to talk like that in our house. This is how we're going to do it. And then you need to show them through your behavior, because that's the only way that they're going to learn. So,
I'm just, in all the wonderful things you just shared, two key things stand out for me. And guys on the call, please feel free to unmute and share as well, because I love that Coach Middle East, we don't have a huge group of people, but the people that we have on are small enough that we can have this personal interaction, so it becomes like a personal coaching session for you. So please do not feel like you're just a silent attendee. I love what Khadija shared here. She's saying that she's really imbibing with the fact about the titles and feeling guilty about, or she is guilty of taking out the frustration on the closest, learning so much already. Thank you, Khadija, for sharing that with us. Please remember, this is your personal coaching session. This is why I call it your date with the doctor or your date with the coach. This is for you, so just be real and be here and be genuine. Priyanka, I have to share something that really went straight to my heart in what you just said now. You said something so profound and powerful. I think that you don't even know how profound and powerful it is. As a parent, I mean, I lost a child to cancer. She would turn 23 years old this year. That was my only and firstborn daughter. I have 3 sons now. So my eldest is 19. And those parents on the call who have teenagers, we know we've entered another dimension of parenting, because as they grow, we've also grown, and our lives change, and we're aging as they're growing, and the world is changing at a faster pace in technology than we can catch up with them. And I like one of the previous, I think it was Asra who said about the screen time and stuff like that. But in all those dynamics and in every stage of life, whether you're like Aisha here, who's here to help her daughters help with their children, whether you're a grandparenting, or whether you're a teenage parenter or you're a toddler parenter, there's something you said. You said that when my mom tells me that I'm a bad person, I'm a bad person. That is so huge. I'll tell you why. Because as we grow up and as we see our teenagers growing into parents and getting to the marital stage and them becoming them parents themselves, we often find, and even if we're not a parent, as a teacher, as a coach, we see that many people in this world carry a very similar pain point, which is, I'm not worthy. And I'm not
Yes.
worthy comes from a very important part of one's life. It comes from how you were raised. And if the person who loves you, or who's supposed to love you the most, and whose guidance you take the most, and whose instructions and rules you follow, and who you feel takes care of you, they're your primary caregiver, your mother and your father. If that person tells you that you're not a good person, then don't they know better? Don't they know me better? Because all we hear is mommy knows best, daddy knows best. And if mommy and daddy say I'm not a good person, can you imagine the ramifications that has on a child growing up as a teenager, and the kind of things they would get involved in trying to feel like a better person? Because I'm not a good person. Because no matter how much I shine indoors, my mom tells me, you're not good, you're a bad boy, or you're a very naughty girl, or I'm ashamed of you, or you're such a disappointment to me. Can you hear that? Can you feel the weight of that? What you just said is
True.
so huge. It's so huge. It's like we all need time to ponder how much those kind of statements affected our lives and our choices, and also ponder how many times we said those kind of messages to the people around us, and how are we going to start fixing, how are we going to stop saying those kind of things, and at the same time share what we need to share, guide in the way we need to guide them as parents, without destroying. And I constantly have this thing that build, don't break, build, don't break.
Yes. Yes, so powerful. Wow, absolutely. And I think this is why I was able to find my niche, because I know that everything that happens in a child's life from 0 to 12, 12 to 18 really molds them into who they are, who they believe they can be, and who they become. And we as parents have the opportunity at any stage of parenting, whether it's toddler, tween, or teen, even an adult child, have the ability to still change the connection between you and the child by loving them and positively reinforcing their worth, and then by empowering them with the ability to process and self-care. So I love how dynamic this platform is for positive parenting, and how to actually equip your child to go out into the world one day knowing, one, that they are loved no matter what. Two, that no matter what they do, you as the parent always have an open door and an open door policy to help them through anything. Because we never want our child to fear us, or fear that what they have done is so terrible that we could never help them. So that is the basis, is having an open door policy at home, an open communication policy, and allowing your child to trust you with anything that they are going through. Because the moment we punish our children and have a fear-based foundation as our parenting mindset, our child will feel that they cannot trust us 100%. So what happens is with positive parenting, it actually shifts the dynamic from a fear-based parenting approach to a love-based parenting approach. And when when I've chatted to people in the past about this, they say, well, love sounds a bit weak, but we know that love is the center of everything, that love forgives, love is challenging. It places a lot on us as parents to always overlook certain mistakes that our child has made, because we never want our child to be defined by circumstances, by a mistake, or by the past things that have happened. We always want them to know that they can come back to us with anything, whether they at any stage of their life, especially teenagers who tend to rebel, who tend to have different types of interests and different company.
Jennifer Randeef of Maverick CEO has raised her hand. Jennifer, are you able to unmute? Please share.
I find this conversation very inspiring, and I believe that every parent has to look at every child as being uniquely different. We cannot put them all in one box and try and fix them. They don't need fixing. I think our main role as parents is to truly encourage them to be the best value that they could be for themselves. So thank you for sharing that. It's been a very interesting conversation so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Priyanka, you said something now, said so again, mashallah, you've got such lovely pearls of wisdom. And as I said at the beginning of the call, we've got this short space of time to share so many wonderful nuggets. Jennifer, I'm just going to put you on mute there. Some background noise. Yeah, so love-based parenting versus fear-based parenting. Funny enough, yesterday my husband and I were contemplating on a very old quote which says, if we replace the love of power with the power of love, the world would transform. And then we look at what was the love of power in terms of parenting, because I was preparing my mind for this seminar that we were having today, and accessing, well, what kind of value would I bring to this conversation in terms of my experiences and my readings and stuff like that, and just contemplating on that quotation, the love of power in terms of parenting. I think it's a lot to do with the way we've been behaviorally, cognitively trained to think what power in the home is. And I'm sure many of us on the call have heard that you just do as you're told. Blind obedience is what you were expected to follow in many parenting homes as across different cultures. And that's not just particularly to the Indian culture. It also goes to the Arab culture. It goes to the Chinese culture. It goes to various cultures across the world where blind obedience was the norm. Critical thinking was not something we encouraged, or was not something that was encouraged. And a lot of us who have not kept with the times, who have not read about parenting, who have not advanced our knowledge in this vital role that we are playing, we go to the default. And the default is what we know based on what we experience. And hence that love of power, I'm the mom or I'm the dad, and you do as you said because I'm the boss here. When you grow up and have your own house, then you do what you want to do. But as long as you're living under this roof, you're going to do what I say. How many of you have heard that or said that? Now, come on, be honest. Put in a yes. Put in that yes in the chat. Don't let me be the only one out here. Come on, put in a yes in the chat. I want to see if you're listening. How many of you have heard that or said that in your lifetime? There we go. Peter saying yes. So Nigerian as well, hey, Peter, not just Indian, Arabs, Chinese, eh? So, yeah, the love of power. If we as parents start moving away from this idea of I'm a good parent when I'm in control and I am in the seat of power not being a bad word here, but being in the place of control, right? Versus the power of love. Now, not love as the airy-fairy, mushy-wushy, Valentine's hearts and roses love. No, love is in the sense of loving what you want for your child as you pray for your child. Like you'd pray that, you know what, I would like my child to be righteous. I would love my child to be a leader. I would love my child to be a contributive member of society. Now, if we start replacing that love of power with the power of love, and you start realizing that, you know what, well, how do I empower my child to be that which I love him to be? How do I empower myself to be that what I love myself to be? Often we may come across parents and we say, wow, I wish I could be like her, or I wish I could be like him. I wish I was a better mom or a better dad. Well, if you love that aspect about that parent, then start looking at what do I know or what do I don't know about that. What can I read? Because basically you're the sum of the books you read and the people you hang out with. You become the
Absolutely.
product of that. How much have we actually read in this greatest role that we play? How many books on parenting have we actually read about this? Yes, share your wisdom, Priyanka, on that. And I don't know if somebody's got their hand up. Is it Lakshmi?
I saw a comment coming through just on how we need to help our children with critical thinking,
Yes, Paulina.
because that's how they actually gain resilience, and we equip them to go out into the world. And everything that we teach our children as the basis of who they are, and the ability to problem solve, and empowering our child also to stretch themselves from an emotional place to be able to overcome, to identify, and to help them. That's what creates resiliency. It's not to say you go out into the world and build a thick skin and become numb, because that's a very different thing. And I think a lot of us, especially just people who haven't been allowed to process emotion, has become numb to a certain extent. And we don't want our children to become numb. We want them to know better. We want them to learn coping mechanisms and ways to know that no matter what, I am still a whole person. No matter what criticism I get in the workplace, no matter what criticism I get at school, even though I may be bullied, we need to equip our children with the ability to think and overcome with knowing who they are. And that's our role as parents, to center them on their identity, through how God has designed us, through our unique gifts and purposes that was mentioned by Jennifer earlier, is by identifying each child as a gift in your home. And I love the saying is that they say we do not get the children that we want, but we get the children that we need. Because children come into our lives as gifts, as babies, and they are so sweet and they're so cute, and we just want to cuddle them and buy them things and spoil them. But then when they start pushing boundaries from the age of 2 and start rebelling, or start saying no and not listening, we really somehow struggle to see the cuteness sometimes. But we need to actually, and the control that we talk about from a positive parenting perspective is knowing how to empower yourself as the parent and give love in that moment to help your child grow from and to learn from something they have done. So instead of yelling at them, spanking them, which we often is our first response, because that's how a lot of us have grown up, is to be punished, to learn, to feel bad about something in order to learn. But how often do children still repeat the exact thing that you spank them over? How often do they still do the same things even though you shouted them? Because those things are ineffective. Soon the child often switches off and doesn't listen anymore, because all they hear is your raised voice and you telling them, well, I know better. This is my house, and in this house you do not have a voice. So what happens is when they grow up and go into the workplace one day, they either become passive aggressive in their approach with their colleagues, or they become outright aggressive and become a different type of persona in the workplace and a different persona at home. So we need to really build our children up with coping with negative emotion, saying that it's okay, and then helping them navigate by always, the bottom line is that you are a good person, and no matter what you've done, it doesn't define you. So I want to talk about how we can actually help in a moment of chaos in our house, in screaming, in tantrums, in children just not listening, having attitude. How do we as the parent gain control?
Yes.
And that is...
Priyanka, I just want to stop you there. Dr. Lakshi has got his hand up. Dr. Lakshi, I've unmuted you. Would you like to share something on that point before the point moves on?
All right. Thank you. First of all, I would like to appreciate Priyanka, Miss Priyanka, Naidoo, and Atiyya. The webinar is going so interactive, so I really appreciate this kind of webinar, and fantastic presentation. Thank you. When I speak from a clinical angle, we see children.
Yes, absolutely.
We see children, especially children who have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, learning disability, and several other kinds of childhood disorders, where we may not be able to apply or say critical thinking and so-called high-level philosophies, where we guide parents, say there are four types of parenting. Among them, authoritative parenting is the most suitable one, especially in the case of children who have um, childhood disorders. Uh, it can be conduct disorder, it can be oppositional defiant disorder, it can be anxiety, depression, OCD, and so on. So many other behavioral and also emotional disorders.
Yes.
So, and at the same time, when we say about the smart parenting and positive parenting, we say we have to consider children as elders. Children is not that something mean, but they are also to be valued, appreciated as equal. Very many times we see children as something they are very small, they don't know anything, they are so small. It is happening. But when we speak about critical thinking, inculcating critical thinking, or the distinction between the power of love and the power of love of power. I mean, uh, when we speak from the angle of a clinician, it's not that simple. And again, when I am behaving as a parent in my home, again it's a difficult task to be done. Hope I arrive at the point which I want to raise.
Thank you, Dr. Lakshi. I hope we've all got most of the points. There was a lot of interference on that line. I don't know if it was just from my side, but to sum up what Dr. Lakshi was saying was that depending on the type of child you have, some children may have, speaking from a clinician point of view, that some children may have some difficulties and challenges in terms of behavioral issues and stuff like that. And that creates a different dynamic for parents. And as much as we value and appreciate that sometimes it's difficult to replace the love of power with the power of love. And I hear that, and nobody said that it was easy. I'm going to tell you this. Nobody said that parenting is going to be easy, but good parenting is definitely going to be worth it.
Absolutely.
And I think that's a very vital thing, that this is, in Islam, there's a word called jihad, which is very often misunderstood to be, synonymous with terrorism. But actually, it's not. Jihad just means an overcoming. It means a struggle against something. And parenting is truly a jihad. It is an overcoming, it's a struggle, it's an internal battle that one has to constantly be facing in order to be victorious. Not facing in order to belittle you or to diminish you as a person, but every challenge just grows and grows and grows a person more. Priyanka, I know you had another point that you wanted to follow on with. I'm just mindful of time.
Yes, oh my gosh, I can't believe how time is going, and I have so much more that I want to say. Thank you so much, Dr. Lakshi, for that. And I do understand that when it comes to, behavioral issues, mental illness, and emotional issues, that it will take a lot more. And with your medical practitioners and with you, like your psychologists and coaching, can really equip parents. But at the foundation is still the same, and it's love. It's looking at through shifting your lens completely, and that child to know that even though they have a disability, they are still a whole human being, and they are capable and worthy, and that they can overcome. And us as parents to allow them to feel worthy, and not as a burden or a hindrance, but to help them through. And that only comes with us as parents knowing how to self-care and to fill our cups up before we pour out to our children, because we'll always feel stressed out, or we'll feel that we don't have control in that way. So I want to go on to my next point, and that's having presence in your home. So your child at any stage in their life wants you. They look at you as your compass, your moral compass, their love bank. They look at you for that real everything, as their mother and father. And we often don't know how to be that interactive parent, or how to pour in from a positive love connection all the time, because life is demanding. But all it takes is presence. Look at your child, put your phone down, put the TV off. They don't want the physical presence that you buy them with money. They want your presence, being your heart, your mind connected to them. Look at them in their eyes. Ask them how their day was. Share about your day. Because in that way, it says, you know what, my mom is actually, and my dad is actually making time for me, because I'm important, because they love me. And I think in the climate that we're living in, and how much harder we have to work, how much more available we need to be to make ends meet, our children are feeling a lack of love, because we're not able to look at them and to actually just be there for them. And I think it's something that's so important that we have to prioritize. And if we just have 30 minutes scheduled a day to spend with no screen time, no TV, no background noise, maybe put on some beautiful music and have time where you get to be present with your child, it will actually shift their persona, and it shift their emotional well-being. And you'll see their behavioral outbursts will start to change, because they have more of you.
Lovely, lovely. Investing in ourselves and investing in our families may not always be something that is financial. Investing in yourself and your family is something more valuable when you are feeding yourselves with a connection. And Paulina wants to share something. Paulina, please unmute. Looking forward to what you'd like to say or question.
Hi everyone. Sorry I joined late, but I'll catch the recording. No, I just wanted to share something. You know, I have a teenage daughter. I have 3 kids, and she went away this weekend with friends because they are in matric, just before they prepare for exams. And I actually wanted to know where they're staying, everything, the details, you know, being the paranoid parent, and also asking my husband to go and check the hotel that they are staying at. And he said something very profound to me. He said, we cannot replace not teaching with controlling our children. I think most of us, because we spend so much time being busy, that we don't spend enough time with our children to teach them what is good and what is bad, so that when they go out in the world, they know what to do. We tend to default into the control mode. And we also share that it's very important that we equip ourselves, because the world is changing. I think recently did a course on conscious parenting, and it just transformed how I view my parenting, because I needed to parent myself and deal with my own internal issues that I suffered as a child before I can transform how I parent my kids. Now I allow them to disagree with me. I allow them to say, I don't want to eat rice, I want to eat this. Whereas before he says, no, you don't appreciate my time spent in the kitchen, you have to eat what I give you. So equipping ourselves, learning new books, what's there in the market, in the coaching. I actually did a coaching course on parenting, which just transformed my life on how I see my kids and how I want to parent them. Thank you.
Thank you, Paulina.
So
That was amazing wisdom in that short suggestion as well. Learning to parent ourselves. That was really lovely. Thank you, Paulina, for sharing.
really incredible. Paulina, and I also loved what you said just about empowering yourself and learning how to actually change your responses. Because another point is that if we do not choose the type of parent that we're going to be, and if we do not challenge ourselves to grow and change the climate of our homes, we will automatically become the parents that we either were parented or how we were reared. So our responses will be exactly what was given to us as a child.
You know, for lack of playing this topic down, or I'm not playing this topic down, but I'm remembering a tagline from Spider-Man. I think it's Spider-Man 1. And if those of you who remember Spider-Man or saw that with your kids, you'd remember there's a very famous quotation: with great power comes great Let me see how many people went. Oh, you know, with great power comes great responsibility. And it was when Peter, the Spider-Man Peter, his grandfather was dropping him off at a place, and Peter was going to fight in order to get money, and not letting his grandparents know that he was going to put himself into danger by fighting to get money. And his grandfather suspected he was up to something. He just said, with great power comes great responsibility. And then he said something else, which lots of people don't focus on. They just remember that first line. But he said, be careful of the man you're growing into, Peter, because it will be the man you're going to probably be for the rest of your life. And then now I want to use that same line into what we're talking about right now. With great power comes great responsibility. Be wary of the parent you're growing into, because it's probably going to be the parent you'll be for the rest of your life. And now that we know that our parenting, the way we were parented affects our parenting, now can you imagine, would you like to take all the negative parenting techniques that we do and let our children repeat that to our grandchildren? Definitely not. Humaira would like to ask a question. Humaira, please go ahead.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, loud and clear. Welcome.
Okay, so it's actually Imran. Humaira is my wife. We're both listening together.
Thank you.
Thanks for a very good presentation. We just have a question to ask. So we have a 3-year-old, right? And ever since the lockdown began, obviously all of his activities like swimming and soccer and you know, whatever we do with him on the weekend and during the week, we've obviously suspended that. And we found that during the lockdown, obviously not seeing so many people, now that we're easing the lockdown, etc., when he does get to see his cousins, when he does get to see lots of people, he just becomes so overly excited. And he's showing that excitement by actually, you know, pinching, hitting, pulling ears, etc. It's actually quite so as parents, you know, to have to go through this, and he's just like 3 years old. So I don't know if it's related to, you know, just being at home very often at this age, but what would you advise and what can you suggest for us to, you know, sort of handle the situation like that where, you know, at age 3, he's just acting out very aggressively. I mean, sometimes he's the sweetest child, but at other times, you know, he has become very familiar with hitting and showing aggression.
Imran, thank you so much. I actually have a 2.5-year-old, and I've noticed similar tendencies happen. And I started reading up about it just in terms of behavioral tendencies. So what's happening to your little one, he's feeling that those cousins of his or the family members that he hasn't seen has actually abandoned him. And where have you been all this time? So he's actually lashing out with a sense of frustration and anger, and he's so upset to say, where have you been? And I'm so upset with you. And what we can do to guide them from a positive parenting perspective is to start talking about the cousins more, have more FaceTime with them, video calls, and we say, my darling, we don't hit, okay? If you are frustrated, you use your words. And every time they hit, we say, use your words, use your words. See, so what happens sometimes is that we will ordinarily, if a child smacks, we will smack them on their hand to correct them. But they are looking at that as that's the way to tell somebody that they're being naughty or they're not listening. So he is expressing that exact way to their cousins through frustration, biting, slapping, and not that you would do that, but he doesn't know how else to channel that emotion. So we need to teach him by talking about it, by having more FaceTime with his cousins. And then if he does it, is to start controlling it by saying, we do not do that. And then saying what we do. We hug, we kiss, we laugh. And if you're frustrated, you tell mommy and daddy why. And it's allowing your child to actually verbalize what they're feeling instead of just showing it.
Lovely, Priyanka. Imran, if I would just want to share a little bit from my experience as well as a counselor, what tends to work with ages from 2 upwards, even teenagers, believe it or not, is to actually use play therapy. So now that you said your kid is 3, this will really work very well. Have 2 teddy bears or 2 fluffy toys, and one obviously would be your son, right? And his emotions and whatever he's going through. So use these two teddy bears. So if you imagine a fluffy teddy bear and a fluffy duck, just imagine for that second, and the duck comes along, and the duck is the friend or the person he's biting or slapping or hitting at, and he's the teddy bear. Let the teddy bear actually make kind of a puppet show. Your wife and you both can do it together, where he would be basically enthralled and animated, because what he sees becomes his reality. He would just immerse himself into it, and then let the teddy bear say the things and act the things and do the things to the duck, for the duck, that you would like your son to do, and let the duck respond appropriately with what your child would like to have said or heard or done for him. So showing the child is very important, because sometimes children at this age, in fact, a lot of times children at this age don't always get the words. What they see is our body language and our facial expressions. And most of the time when we see our child doing that, we've got a shocked, exasperated, a little bit annoyed, a little bit angry. So he gets a very mixed message between our words, our face, and our actions, and sometimes our firm grip on the situation, or apologizing to the parent of that child, or saying sorry to that child, and he feels like this bad person, and then it just becomes a repeated vicious cycle. So kind of do more every day. Do a little puppet show kind of thing with him. Just very simple, when he's going to bed or wake up in the morning, or even when he's eating, just put on this thing and create something. You'll actually find that you may actually love it a lot. And let us know how it goes. I put my WhatsApp number there as well. So yeah, I would love to know more about how that went along for you guys.
Thank you so much. Thanks for the very practical advice. We'll try that and we'll let you know. Thanks so much.
Welcome. Thank you for your question. Yes, Priyanka, you may continue with what you were saying.
So we were talking about just being present for our children and, giving them that time. And I love what you're saying here about role playing and play therapy and talking about emotions and showing children, even through drawing, through painting, through Play-Doh, to get them to express that frustration. It's very, very, it's very amazing how we can get them to help ease in and show emotion through expressing it in a very creative way. And the last thing that I wanted to talk about was, so I spoke about your awareness, I spoke about your presence, but the underlying of everything, what we want to achieve as parents, is that connection with our child, is to actually build a bond of unbreakable bond. So we love our children unconditionally, but often that unconditionality gets impacted just with life and stress and circumstances. And as our children grow older, we actually don't know how to control certain aspects. And so that connection element is something that we have to strive towards. And it's nothing that's very difficult, because we are born wanting relations, we are born wanting connection, and we are geared that way. So it's about connecting with your child. It goes back to presence, one-on-one, asking them how their day was, what are their frustrations, talking to them, saying it's okay, sharing about your day, telling them what mommy and daddy went through, what are we doing together, talking about life, how we've learned from a situation. And that's when your child actually feels like, you know what, I'm a part of this, and I can also help mommy. I can tell her everything that's on my heart. I can tell her everything that's happening at school. And that's what we want, our children to feel connected to us. And we won't feel that connection all the time, every day, but it's the underlying tone of positive parenting and what we want to achieve for our homes, for ourselves, and for our children to take out of our homes one day.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love also, Priyanka, you shared so many beautiful things here, and things that just kind of lift the lid onto us doing more. And obviously, in a short space of time, we cannot. Nobody can, no matter how big of an expert they are, or no matter how knowledgeable they are on a subject, it's impossible to do all that in an hour or an hour and a half. However, what we've touched on today, I hope for myself, for you, as well as all the attendees here, little keys that are going to open boxes of a wealth of value for you. I would like to do a little exercise, and I would love for you to all do this activity as a parent, especially in light of parenting ourselves, and in light of Azra's question earlier on about how to juggle and how to focus on everything that's going around us. I want us to imagine for a second a bubble, all right? Imagine this huge bubble. You know, you've seen them at the malls, those go balls, you know, you get into it and it floats on the water. Imagine a huge bubble like that, right? These huge plastic bubbles. If you had to be in that bubble just with you and your kids, just you, your spouse, or if you don't have a spouse, you're a single parent maybe, and just you and your significant others in that bubble. Everything that enters into that bubble is what you allow into that bubble, because you are responsible, you're the adult in the bubble, all right? So everything that gets into the bubble has to go through your permission, all right? And everything that leaves the bubble has to go through your permission, because you are supreme in charge there as a family. You're guiding, you're taking the instructions from the higher authorities. Let's, for a second, just imagine, you know, whether you want to imagine that you're on Mars in an oxygenated bubble, or whether you want to imagine you're in a severe lockdown, whatever it may be, but just with the purpose of understanding that you and your family is only in this bubble, what would you allow into it and what will you not allow into it? Now, if you could transport your family exactly as the dynamic is right now, the emotions, the feelings, the thoughts, the words that you hear yourself saying and that you allow the people in your home to say and feel and act out, would it be exactly what you'd like to put into that new bubble? Because this bubble would be your new environment. Now, the power of being a human being is that we have the power of choice, and we have the power of creating a new dimension or a new dynamic in every moment. The past does not equal the future. So whatever we've done in the past, if we're not happy with those results today, it's very, very simple. Stop, look at your situation, say, well, I'm not going to allow this in my bubble anymore, or I'm not going to enter this bubble with these words, these thoughts, these feelings. I'm just not taking it into there. It didn't serve me outside of the bubble. It certainly is not going to serve me in the bubble. So I want you to do this activity, everybody, today, even if it means you're just drawing this bubble in your diary or on a whatever, you've got a serviette next to you, just draw that bubble and think about what are you wanting to put into that bubble for you and your family. Because at some point, your children are going to get out of that bubble and going to go into bubbles of their own, where they're going to be the parent, where they're going to guide your grandchildren. And that's the legacy you are going to leave. This what you're given them, this values. And I'll share something very simple. Yesterday, I was sitting with my teenager who was 14, and he had a moody day, you know. And he reacted badly when I asked him about if he'd been watching any Khan Academy tutorials on the internet to help him with his online schooling with regards to math. Because here in the UAE, grade 6 above are all online for a while the grade 6s and below grade 6 goes to school. And he got very annoyed and he got very upset. And I said to him, why are you reacting that way? And he says, I don't know. And I said, okay, that's not an appropriate way to react to me. And I left his room. I went to see to the younger one who was 9 years old, tucked him into bed, and then went back to the 14-year-old. And I realized when I went back to him, I was just going to go show him some love. Because I thought about it, when I am moody and when I am reacting in a way that I don't know why, I don't need more mood. I don't need more authority. I need somebody to kind of just be with me, kind of just ease me out of that mood, whether it's having an ice cream, whether it's a cup of tea, whether it's a touch on my shoulder, whether it's everything's going to be okay, whether it's I don't understand what you're going through, but I'm ready to hear when you want to share. I said, well, let me go and give him a little bit of my presence. And being a typical teenager, he acted like he was asleep, of course. I was like, so I said, okay, I know you're pretending. I know that. I know you want to smile. I really know that he wasn't in the mood to smile, but I could sense from his facial reaction that he was obviously pretending. And we started speaking, for him in the beginning, not speaking, but he was listening. And I said to him, look, boy, managing our moods is not an easy thing. And you're going through these teenage years now, which I've also been through. I don't remember everything about my teenage years, but I certainly remember there was a lot of ups and downs when I didn't understand myself, and I said things that I was not proud of, and I did things I wasn't proud of without even knowing why and how I said and did those things. A lot of our life was run on hormones at that time. But we can't let our entire life be run on that. We have to learn to manage our moods, because if we let our moods manage us, it will be an absolute disaster. And then I spoke to him about something that I used as an example of the day, and I brought into it the value, because in our family we have a value that families who pray together stay together. And I've been using this a lot since the lockdown started, that families who pray together stay together. And when I was calling him for the 5 daily salah, as Muslims we have the 5 daily prayers, and I've been calling him maybe in the middle prayers, and he hasn't come immediately, you know, he lackadaisically take a long time. So I just asked him, I said, maybe I need to understand something. Instead of me getting upset or assuming that you don't want to pray, which is not a nice assumption, is there a reason you're not coming to pray with us on time? And he says, no. I said, okay, so what's stopping you then? And she says, I don't know. I said, okay, then I'm going to just leave it with you to figure out. And you decide from tomorrow whether you want to uphold this value that we have as a family, or you don't want to uphold it. If you feel it's not a value you have, and it's not a value you want to take with you into the future, then you decide. And I found that he actually started responding in a very positive way in terms of him speaking to me, and his body language relaxed. And I had to go back and sort of think about that for myself, that what changed there? I didn't raise my voice. I didn't even raise my argument. I actually lowered my voice, sat next to him, had my hand on his shoulder. And young boys, parents here who have teenage boys, even boys 9 years up and going above, boys need a lot of physical touch. Like Imran was just saying, you know, boys need that rough play, that going out, they energetically, especially boys, or girls need it too, but boys especially, they are very kinesthetic. And as mums and as dads, as the boys grow up, we kind of stop touching them. We kind of stop hugging them as much. And if you're feeling uncomfortable doing that, start with the little things. Tap them on their shoulder, ruffle their hair. If they hate ruffling their hair, if they set it with the wax and the hair gel, don't do that, of course. But find little things that makes your son feel acknowledged and loved and touched, because many a time our boys don't get that. And I'm touching also on Shakira's suggestion earlier on about compassion. We have to show that compassion. Our feelings have to move towards letting them know that we are moved by the issue. We're here to support them. And don't give yourself permission. I'm going to repeat this. Don't give yourself permission to speak negatively. As Peter said, do not speak negatively. And Priyanka, as you're saying, positive parenting, what is the opposite of positive? The opposite is negative. So we choose which side of the fence we want to fall on.
Absolutely. And, you know, a lot of it, you know, it also could be just dismissive or not interested. I mean, there can be parents who just are not emotionally available for their children because they're also just trying to cope with life. And it's just saying that positive parenting, it's about you first as the parent. It's about saying that you are the foundation of your home. It's never about perfection. It's about showing your children that you are human, you need care, self-care, and you forgive yourself. You say sorry. You allow yourself to move on, and you choose joy and peace on a daily basis by saying that's what you deserve and bringing it into your home piece by piece.
Oh, wow. Dr. Lakshi, I would like you to answer a question from one of the participants, if you may. One of the participants, I'll keep the confidentiality, mentioned that they'd like a little bit of suggestion on how can they be a positive parent when a parent themselves is facing postnatal depression or depression in general. How is it, I'm just reading her question, how they are with themselves is far more important to transfer in their homes. How does a parent take steps out of depression in general in order to work on their inner self so that they can be a positive person with their kids when they themselves are struggling with an emotional issue. So Dr. Lakshmi, if you can just give us I know that is a huge topic, but without prescribing any drugs, what can you suggest?
Yeah. Nowadays, we are handling lot of cases like anxiety, depression, and so on. I'm not a medical practitioner. I'm a clinical psychologist. So my practice comprise only psychotherapy, cognitive behavior therapy. So here we have online sessions or telecom therapy. So where you are asking what I am doing, I mean within the therapy, or what is your, I mean,
I'm saying
point?
if a parent is suffering with depression, what would you suggest to them being a depression sufferer themselves, how they now know that they're responsible for these amazing children around them? It's like these beautiful flowers in your garden that you're not watering because you yourself are dry. You are the well, you are dry, and you've got to water these plants, and you know you don't have the water because you're depressed. What are the steps to get out of that? A very quick question, and I know it's a whole topic about depression, but in terms of parenting, what advice would you say to this parent? I think this parent is in South Africa.
Yeah, I will do this way. I will give you some tips how to address anxiety or depression during the time of pandemic. Is that okay?
Yes, definitely.
Fine. First of all,
Atiyya, I would
tell me.
Dr. Louie, yes, I just wanted to say that from a educational or a clinician, what you do is so amazing. And I was a depressed mom. I mean, I almost lost my daughter at birth, and I went through post-traumatic stress just from the birth and being separated. And I must say that my healing also came from identifying that I needed to heal myself first. So
Okay.
my coaching it's about the awareness. So my coaching is geared towards moms who suffer with depression, moms who had children separated at birth, who were in the neonatal ICU, and also just how to love yourself and self-care for mummies. So I do have, and I wanted to offer this to people listening here today, is I have a free coaching book also, and resources available for whoever would like them. So I would definitely want to chat more on that topic with you.
Okay.
While
I
Dr.
mean,
Lakshmi is sharing with us his tips, Priyanka, please put in your details there in the chat so those people who want to access it. Dr. Lakshmi, please, we are looking forward to hearing the tips that you'd love to
okay.
share with us.
I will. I mean, give you some tips how to solve or how to handle, how to solve depression during pandemic. First of all, we have to identify what are the thoughts going through this gentleman or lady's head, brain. So first of all, we have to identify what are the negative thoughts. Negative thoughts. I mean, like I lost all my hope. I don't know what is going to happen. I don't want to live. I lost my job. I don't know how to go ahead. And these are the major negative automatic thoughts come in a depressed mind, depressed brain. So first of all, we have to track their negative automatic thoughts. This is the first thing. So it is called identifying negative automatic thoughts. The second thing, what is the impact of negative automatic thoughts in this gentleman or lady's life? For example, emotional outburst. For example, behavioral things and physiological things like sleep disorder, lack of appetite, or crying spell. Now, these are all, I mean, reactions. It can be emotional reaction, it can be physiological reaction, it can be behavioral reaction. So we will come to know that, I mean, because of this negative automatic thinking, this particular person has got all these
emotional, physiological, behavioral reactions. So the second thing, the impact of negative automatic thoughts, emotional, behavioral, and physiological as well. And the third thing, reframe the tricky thinking. How to do reframing? It's a, small technique we all have to learn. See, we have a lot of beliefs. We have a lot of faiths. We just believe that my case is a basket case. My case is a helplessness. My case is a hopelessness. I am a worthless person. Something like that. These are all come under depression. So we have to reframe those tricky thinking. So where we are supposed to do ask back, answer back, talk back. Suppose a gentleman is thinking, my life is a waste. I am a useless person. How to reframe this negative automatic thinking? That we have to teach, this particular person and help him to come out of depression or anxiety or similar emotional disorders. Now I just put 3 points. One is identify your negative thoughts. Second thing, the impact of negative thoughts. Third thing, reframe the tricky thinking. Now, I think you got some idea. Now you can ask me some questions with regard to the 3 points. Then I will elaborate. Then you will understand more.
Dr. Lakshmi, that was so amazing that what you just said. I want to ask you in the reframe, the tricky thinking, because the person who asked me on the private message asked that, this is something that really they want to help with. So I know that this is not a particular seminar on depression and stuff like that, but it's so vital that we, it just ties in with everything. How can you be a positive parent if you're not positive yourself? So you got to start with you. So I'm going to allow that discussion. Priyanka, if you'd allow me to just continue with Dr. Lakshmi there for a short space. When you said, Dr. Lakshmi, you said reframe. You mentioned 3 things. You said ask, and what was the other 2?
Identify your negative automatic thoughts.
Yeah, and then
impact of negative thoughts. Then reframe your tricky thinking.
Yeah,
in reframe, we do 3 things.
Yeah,
ask back. Ask back means you just, do not leave your thoughts simply and don't take it for granted. You have to ask back. Why I say I am useless? How can you prove that I am useless? I lived a life for the past 45 years successfully. Now, at this point of time, I'm suffering from depression. That doesn't mean that my whole 45 years life is so dark and sad. So I have to ask back. Don't simply take your negative belief or negative automatic thinking granted. You have to ask back. Someone spit on your face. What shall you do?
You're going to wipe it off first and probably ask
you
why.
Will kick him back. You will kick him back, or you will do something about.
Yeah.
Similarly, you have to ask back. You have to react. You have to respond positively. That's what meant by asking back. The second thing, answer back. See, don't take a question and believe it. I am useless. I am a waste basket. No. I have to reprove. I have to reframe. See, in almost all families, there will be some framed photo. For example, family photo, my grandparents' photo, my father's photo, or my mother's photo, or our loved one's photo. It's framed. Similarly, we have framed a lot of beliefs, a lot of things, and we took it to our personal life. So we have framed certain thoughts, certain beliefs. So we have to reframe it. That means you have to break the frame. That is called a reframe. Reframe Framing means you have to break the frame. You have to break your belief. You have to there is a connection between thought, feelings or mood and behavior. So if you can work with your thoughts, similarly, you will have good mood or feelings and good behavior. Did you? It's very simple. CBT is very simple. First of all, take history of your thinking patterns, whether there are negative thinking patterns. It's also known as schema. Schema. It's something like a scheme. It's, like a determinism. It's like a fatalism. It's already written in your, so you may not be able to change them. So by addressing them, by reframing them, you can bring in a new philosophy, a new positive thinking, by which your mood and your feelings and your emotions and your physiology and your all behavior will be positive. It is as simple as that. You may not be able to comprehend, all what I said, because it's a long academic thing to learn. If you ask a couple of questions, I think I can contribute more.
Dr. Lakshya, I think we got to give you your own session on Coach Middle East, because you're going to have a wealth of knowledge for parents who are facing depression. And I think a lot of people really need that. So definitely book one of your Saturdays out free for us, and we will definitely host you, because I think it's an in-depth topic that we need to, we need to honor the topic and honor you with your own webinar on this, inshallah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for listening me. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Priyanka, if we take Dr. Lakshi's input into this, think about it. In your practice as an awareness coach, in terms of being a depressed mom, Dr. Lakshi said some very, very poignant things there about the ask and answer aspect of listening to the negative thought pattern.
Yes, he did. Very profound. Thank you so much, Dr. Lakshi. Coaching really piggybacks off so much of the psychological theories. So, when we learn coaching, and Atiyya, you will be able to attest to the same, is that we understand parts of the brain, and also how our brain and the chemicals, the neuroscience behind our brain, and dopamine and all the chemicals that actually cause sometimes an imbalance with regard to an overpowering of a negative emotion. And having coming out of a traumatic birth and other traumas that I had to deal with in my life, the turning point for me was identifying that I wanted to change it, that I no longer wanted this depression any longer. And the truth is, whoever did talk about that, is that you're right. You cannot be a positive parent if you yourself are feeling really depressed or in a very negative cycle of thinking. And the only way you can change it is, and you've done it already, is identifying it and then taking the steps by seeking help with either therapy or coaching through a coaching platform that can help you really reframe, open up your mind, and start looking at life with the new opportunity to start creating a new reality.
Oh, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. Priyanka, we've unfortunately run out of time. Any last words from you? And yes, please, any last questions from you as well that you may want to have? Any things you'd like to suggest for future seminars, what you'd like to hear more of? And thank you, Dr. Lakshi, is summarizing what he just said. Ask back, answer back, and talk back to the tricky thinking. Yes, it's amazing. Don't let your negative Nelly, I call it a negative Nelly. Sometimes you might actually hear those negative thoughts so much that I have found that giving my negative voice a name makes a difference, because I can identify that, you know what, that's negative Nelly in me talking, and I don't want to listen. Thank you for your comments. And well, this is what I think. And it's very important to be able to know the difference between your negative Nelly and your actual essence, and what you want to create. As Priyanka says, what do you want to create? How do you create your reality? How do you create that? And if you think about the activity I asked you all to do today, what do you want to put in that bubble with your family? And right now,
Absolutely.
if you've got something negative going on in your home, draw 2 bubbles. Draw the bubble as it is right now. If you imagine, is it shouting? Is it screaming? Is it negative voices? Is it blaming? Is it you, this, you, that, you don't help me enough, you don't understand? Is it all about you, and blaming and attacking? And draw that bubble. Put in those words, almost like a cartoon character. Look at what it looks like, and then create the new one. Let your mind, we achieve what the mind can conceive. So if you start looking and visualizing that, well, that's the bubble I want to create, that's what I want to have in there, you then start gearing yourself towards that. So Priyanka, last words from you, my dear.
Atiyya, I just want to tell everyone who's joined today, thank you so much. The fact that you are here, you're already making a difference to yourself by empowering yourself, and that's going to be a ripple effect into your home. And your kids are very blessed to have you as parents, because you want to do things differently. And that's where it starts, with the actual knowing that you have the power to change in this given moment, to choose a different life going forward, and to know that you're already a great parent. You have it all within you. It's all just there waiting to be unleashed. And I have written a special ebook on positive parenting and bringing peace into your home. And I'd love to give that to everyone who's here. Atiyya, if you could please share my details.
Yes.
I put it onto the chat.
I appreciate it as well here.
And I would also just love to connect with all of you as well. If you want to talk more about positive parenting and how to incorporate it, how to start with you, I would love to chat to you and offer you a free coaching session.
Oh, that would be amazing. Thank you so much, Priyanka, for that. And for those of you who know my number already and info@coachmiddleeast.com, you can send your details to me and I'll certainly forward it on to Priyanka. Priyanka is based in South Africa, but the beauty of what COVID has brought to us is that we have really started C for COVID and C for connecting. So we're actually reaching more people than we ever did pre-COVID. So we look on the bright side, we see the silver lining of every cloud. And as Quran tells us, innamal usra wal yusra, there is ease in difficulty. So we need to look for the ease as well. So one of the eases is this amazing opportunity for you to get a personal coaching session for free with Priyanka, as well as an excellent coaching ebook that you would love to share with those fortunate members on the call. Thank you everybody for being here, for honoring yourself, for honoring us. Without you being on Coach Middle East to attend, every one of you, then you know what, we'd be just she and I talking to ourselves, and that wouldn't be fun at all. So thank you for being with us. Thank you for sharing with us, Dr. Lakshmi and everybody, Paulina, Jennifer, Peter, Khadija, Aisha, everybody. In fact, every single person on this call has shared with an input or a voice, and we really appreciate that you have taken your time to be with us. And to Hadra as well, you always attend. Hadra, I should send you a special award by Postnet to South Africa, because you're one of my best supporters at Coach Middle East. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And please, guys, I would love for you to pass the message out. Send more of our BC. If you're getting our message, send it out to more people so that we can fulfill our mission and our vision as well, to reach, to aim to inspire, to achieve the impossible, because we want to lift the energy, the collective energy. We want to inspire others to living a more healthy and well life, whether we're coaches, doctors, consultants, whatever it may be. It's not about the job that we're doing. This is more than that. This is our free time that we want to give so that we feel fulfilled. We feel we live in a purposeful life. And please, I do appeal to you to share the messages out with your families, your communities back in your own countries. Asa, please share with the people in Lithuania as well, so that more and more and more positivity is spread around the world. Thank you, Khadija. Thank you, Hadra, Peter, everybody who's saying thank you. Thank you, Dr. Lakshmi. And thank you, Priyanka, for this amazing time that you've shared with us. We are honored to have you on the call.
It's my absolute pleasure to be part of this platform. And thank you, Atiyya, for everything that you've done and for offering us this platform to connect the way you do and for inspiring us the way you do. We are so grateful, and I am so grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much. For those of you who tune into CII this afternoon at GST time 5 p.m., we've got part 2 of the series on gender-based violence with Jasmine Khan. So www.ciiradio.com if you want to hear the part 2 on the gender violence series. And believe it or not, we'll be speaking about how gender violence is perpetuated in society through our parenting. So if you want to learn more, and if you're in an abusive home, or you see your kids or family members in an abusive cycle, what can you learn about how to advise that person or yourself on how you can parent in a way that does not perpetuate gender violence in the next generation? So take care, everybody. I love you all, and stay safe. Be blessed. Masalama.
Bye.
Bye.